You guys remember how many times I've said that there are certain progressive critiques of society that should stay in academia and not stay in the common discourse? Thank you, Carolyn Borisenko, wonderful person, for breaking this story, which has apparently been corroborated. This apparently is a thing that's really happening, from what I can see. Coca-Cola is forcing employees to create a complete online training telling them to try to be less white. These images are from an internal whistleblower. All right, let's see. So as you can see, these are pulled from some sort of online module. Confronting racism, understanding what it means to be white, challenging what it means to be racist. To be less white is to be less oppressive, arrogant, certain, defensive, ignorant, humble. To listen, to believe, to break with apathy, and to break with white solidarity. In the US and other Western nations, white people are socialized to feel they are inherently superior because they are white. Research shows that by age 3 to 4, children understand that it is better to be white. Try to be less white. Is this from Robin DiAngelo? Oh yeah, with Robin DiAngelo, it says right there. Robin DiAngelo. Our white fragility, ruining things for everyone else, yet again. So, I'm just gonna yell. Wait, attention seeker? Vosh, don't use this one? What? Look at her description. What am I? Oh, I see. So I was looking in the box down here. Okay. Is an attention seeker consultant? Yes, of course. Okay, so people have vandalized the page. All right. It's time to talk about this, okay? We're going to be real hard on this one, all right? And I'm going to need you guys to listen the fuck up. Racism is complicated, okay? And from what we can see, it does not seem to be the case that people are made less racist by being given cringy corporate slideshows on how they need to apologize to the world for being white. Robin DiAngelo, regardless of what this Wikipedia may have said before it was defaced, is an attention seeker because she has completely moved the discourse on anti-racism in corporate environments away from meaningful intersectional change, away from policy, and moved it all towards reading her book, White Fragility, and then paying for more racial sensitivity consultants to come into your business, okay? I need to be real with you. If a person is racist in a workplace, they are not going to stop being racist because you sat them down in front of a consultant who's being paid $300 an hour so she can explain to you for 30 minutes how whiteness historically means privilege or whatever. That won't make anybody less racist. Stop. I don't care if it feels good. I don't care if it warms your little liberal heart. I don't give a fuck, okay? It is a waste of money that is being deliberately orchestrated by a grifter class of dipshit pseudo-intellectual consultants who make a fuckload of money off of convincing corporate CEOs that they should be convincing their workforce to feel guilty for, I'll say it, feel guilty for being white. I have not a single day in my life felt guilty for being white, not once, and nobody should. Nobody should ever feel guilty about anything pertaining to the circumstances of their birth, period. Obviously. And for the most part, and I mean 99% of the time, nobody, and I mean nobody, tries to shame people for being white. Ever. I don't see this. I'm out here in the left. I anger people. I get angry with people. I'm not made to feel ashamed for being white. I don't think this is like a real problem. I don't think this is a real problem, certainly on the left. But there are certain elements of liberal anti-racism which seem to be more oriented around atoning for racism, performative rejection of racism through atonement, where you're not actually trying to challenge racism. You're not actually trying to systemically change it or understand it. Instead, what you are is trying to grab the nearest person with darker skin, grab him by the shoulder, shake him, saying, "I'm sorry! I'm sorry! I'm sorry!" And you know this is cringe because you've seen boys do it in Facebook comments underneath cute girls' profile pic photos, haven't you? You've seen guys saying, "I'm sorry guys are like that. Men, I know, right? Well, I'm not like that." And you cringe. And you cringe and your heart hurts because it's painful to watch, and people do that same thing. And I reject the idea that this performative self-denigration, this whiteness thing that they push, that people like Rob and DiAngelo push, that this actually makes people less racist. Maybe you have some edge case. Maybe there's some benefits. But this approach is utterly, wildly ineffective. And I'm going to show you why, okay? I'm going to show you why. This language does not belong in a fucking corporate slideshow. You need to shut the fuck up, okay? People who work at Coca-Cola, this is Coca-Cola, people who work in any industry outside of academia are not conditioned to acknowledge the nuance with which these arguments are being delivered, okay? Now, here's something I know because I'm a sociology major, as in I dropped 20 or 25 or however many thousands of dollars to sit in classrooms for 4 years and learn X. And one of the things I learned amongst X was whiteness. Whiteness does not actually mean white people. To deconstruct whiteness does not mean you're deconstructing white people. What you're actually doing, what whiteness actually is in the academic discourse, is a collection of social norms and values associated with white supremacy. That's what whiteness is in the academic sense. Whiteness isn't like white people doing whatever, like living their lives. Whiteness is when two elementary school kids, one black and one white, look at the history book and look through all the previous presidents and get two very different impressions about whether or not they could one day grow up to be a president. That's whiteness. Whiteness is when a cop rolls through a wealthy neighborhood and doesn't even bother looking out the side passenger windows because they don't think they're going to see anything worth looking into. Whiteness isn't about white people. It's just about institutionalized white supremacy. And that's fine. And in academic discourse, that's okay. And it can be understood. But this is not academia. These people who are looking at this slideshow are regular fucking people. Confronting racism, understanding what it means to be white, challenging what it means to be racist. If you want to make one of these fucking slideshows nix the first sentence here, understanding what it means to be white, motherfucker, a white person is not going to have their understanding of their racial identity advanced by a fucking corporate slideshow that they have to complete in order to not get fired because their boss bothers them. It's not going to happen. Understanding what it means to be white. Can you imagine any other context in which this is acceptable? Literally, can you fathom any other context in which this is acceptable? Where you can, in a corporate environment, create a slideshow telling people about their racial identity. Unbelievable. I actually can't. It's unbelievable to me. The presumptuousness, the arrogance. And don't get me wrong, I'm as committed as any to the idea of challenging racism. And I do think that a corporate environment is an acceptable environment in some ways to challenge racism. But this is ineffective, this is preachy, and as you can tell by the fact that this whistleblower screenshot leak has already gotten thousands of quote tweets and over 10,000 likes, it makes people angry. It's bad optics. It's counterproductive in every imaginable way. It is wrong. Look at this. To be less white is to be less oppressive, arrogant, certain, defensive, ignorant, humble, listen, believe it. This is ridiculous. Look at this. Can you imagine giving a slideshow to like your Uncle Joe, and then your Uncle Joe comes to you and you have to defend it? And why? Since whiteness is an institutional critique, would you then levy it in an essentialist and individualist way? Why would you simultaneously make the argument that whiteness is a broader institutional series of social policies and then say to be less white is to X? This is about individual changes of behavior. This isn't about institutional critique. You can't mix whiteness and white. You can't mix critiques of whiteness with critiques of being white. And you certainly shouldn't, let me be very clear, have a corporate slideshow that you show to your white employees telling them that because they are white, they need to be less oppressive, less arrogant, less certain. I would be mad if I got this slideshow because I'm a white person. I don't think I'm racist. I think I'm one of the good ones. I think I'm okay. And I would feel pretty fucking talked down to by this. I would feel patronized. Not only because the underlying premise of this slideshow is that I am individually engaging in oppressive behaviors, but also because I know that there are other people next to me who will not be as charitable to the content of this slideshow as me. I would not. I understand what it means. It doesn't matter if you understand what it means. How would you know what? Maybe we can do a litmus test for you motherfuckers. How would you feel if somebody came up to you and said, hey, well, assuming you're a man, I'm a man. If somebody came up to you, a guy, and they were like, hey, you're a guy, and if you want to be here at this dorm, you're going to need to work on being less oppressive, less arrogant, be less certain. You need to be less domineering and forceful with the people around you, because you're a guy. You need to work on being less of a guy. I'd be uncomfortable. Now, if you really want to stretch that, you could say, okay, maybe you can argue that toxic masculinity leads to certain behavioral trends. Yeah, that's based. You're a cuck, my friend. Yeehaw, bitch. You were a cuck in the last segment. You're a cuck in this one, okay? You want to live your life under a constant apologia. I refuse to, because there's nothing wrong with being white or a man. There's something wrong with the way society treats everyone. You're getting off on being cucked. I'm not a man. Then you're appropriating my struggle. You're not a man. I'm not a man, but that's based. Yeah, okay. So what? So you can fucking sneer at all the men being paraded through the line as they get judged one by one. Fuck you. Fuck all of you. Now, personally, being a man, I would feel pretty patronized if I had been treated in that way, just presumptuously because of my gender. And I would feel pretty patronized if I was treated this way presumptuously just because of my race. I don't think that's good. I don't think this is effective. I don't think this is constructive. I don't think this is productive. This slide right here isn't quite as objectionable because it is... This is the least objectionable of the slides, I think. This is the most defensible of them. I think that if this slide was included in a PowerPoint which was otherwise good and well constructed, then I wouldn't have an issue with it. All you're doing is providing ammunition exactly against critical race theory. Critical race theory, let me be really clear, is not white people feeling guilty. That is not what critical race theory is. Critical race theory is an analytical lens for racial dynamics which focuses on the power dynamics between different racial groups. That's critical race theory. It's good. It's a good thing. It's a good system. But Robin DiAngelo is not a leftist. Robin DiAngelo is not some crazy far left demagogue. Robin DiAngelo is a corporate contractor who has made money as a liberal, shitting out books telling people they need to hire her more often. Is the slideshow wrong, though? When you are presenting information, so a lot of the content of this slideshow isn't even right or wrong. Is this statement right or wrong? What the fuck does this even mean? To be less white is to blank? In fact, as a sociology major, yeah, this slide right here is objectively wrong. Because whiteness is systemic. This statement is to be less white. This just doesn't work. This doesn't fight racism. This doesn't make anything better. This is 11 minutes, though. Maybe they only took screenshots of the bad ones. Yeah, I bet they did. I don't care. This shouldn't be in any slideshow. How do we know that the slideshow isn't fake? It seems to have been corroborated pretty well. And unironically, this doesn't seem out of line with some other stuff that I've seen in corporate environments. If this ends up being completely fake, then I'll delete whatever video I make of this and make a retraction and an apology. But this does seem to be true from what I saw and from the information that I was provided. This is essentialist bullshit, okay? People are not taught enough about anti-essentialism? Yeah, of course they're not, because that's too complicated. Yeah, this isn't Robin DeWilliams' book. This really isn't, like, out of line. But, like, the language here is just so fucking bad. Also, like, hey, listen, I'm about to pull out the big gamer bro argument, okay? Is everyone ready? Everyone soy? Get ready to tip your fedoras, okay? You getting ready, okay? I'm about to pull it out, okay? We getting ready? You're not going to like me for this one, but I'm going to do it, and I hope you understand the argument that I'm making after I do it. What if the races were reversed? Now, hold on. Hold on. There have been conferences held by black civil rights leaders in the past decades which have addressed the problem of black-on-black violence. The cuck in chat is mad. Yeehaw, bitch. Shut the fuck up. Stay mad, you racist piece of shit. I'll get to you. There have been these conferences held by black civil rights leaders to talk about black-on-black violence. Now, black-on-black violence is almost always invoked as a dog whistle by conservatives to advocate for terrible policies against black people. That is generally what it is used to evoke. But due to some legitimate socioeconomic issues, there really is quite a bit of black-on-black violence. It's something to be worth addressed. So, some of the components of that black-on-black violence do have cultural roots. I know you people are, black culture argument, but at the end of the day, culture is a product of socioeconomics. The cultures that we arrive at are the product of the environments that we are placed in. Cultures which are formed in wealth and privilege tend to be different from cultures which are formed in deprivation and poverty. Seems to be the case. Culture is downstream of politics. So with that all being said, Vosh, you're flying too close to the sun here, dude. I want to be perfectly clear, considering the fact that everything I've said right now is objectively correct, that if anybody disagrees with it, it's because they have some internalized guilt, and you all need to shut the fuck up. You unironically obfuscate legitimate social issues by being unwilling to, actually talk about anything sincerely. All you care about is your fucking TikTok cancel compilations, okay? Shut the fuck up. So, there are conferences, seems I've been canceled by my provider. There are conferences held by black civil rights leaders, and sometimes some of the issues that they discuss in those conferences is unironically black culture. You all know this, don't you? Have you ever actually looked into any of these like summits on black-on-black violence? There are discussions in there about cultural tendencies, about prioritizing certain values over another. Sometimes these things do come up. Obviously they do. Culture is a component of broad social problems for everyone. So can you imagine if in a conference like that, somebody made a slide like this? To be less black is to, and you can fill in the following however you like. Now, do you think that would be a constructive way of approaching the situation? Do you think that would be effective? Do you think that would change minds? Do you think that would incite positive discourse? Or does it come off perhaps as a little bit too essentialist? It comes off like you're impugning black people, doesn't it? Not some broad ulterior socioeconomic problem, but black people. And that makes you feel weird. Well, let me tell you, racial essentialism isn't any more okay when you're using it against the dominant group. It doesn't make it any better. It doesn't lead to any better outcomes. In fact, it obfuscates the real issue because essentialism prevents us from fighting against systemic racism. You notice the essentialism when it's being levied against black people. But when it's being levied against white people, some of you are more defensive. You say it's a systemic critique. Well, I disagree. I think that this is an essentialist argument right here. And I think that essentialist argument is harmful. I think that essentialist argument obfuscates the discourse. I think it gives conservatives a fuck ton of ammunition to use against progressives and to use against anti-racists. And I think, frankly, that it propagates racism, not only because it makes conservatives dig their heels into the ground, but also because I think it prevents white people from understanding how racism functions. I think a lot of people legitimately believe that racism is like this individual, like, you're bad in here, you do bad because you're bad in here type of thing. When in reality, the most insidious forms of racism are usually the ones that you can't even see in your day-to-day life. That's the point. They're institutionalized, they're systemic. And an individual trying to come to terms with that is not going to be more educated. that process isn't going to be helped with slides like this. I hope that makes sense to everyone. I understood we took a bit of a rocky road to get there, but hey, listen, I'll tell you this much, okay? The language I use to talk about sensitive issues like this sure has improved in the past 2 years. Whew! There are a lot of conservatives, many of them, millions of them, who think that this is what the left wants right here. That they think this is what the left wants. The left wants white people to be ashamed and guilty. And unfortunately, there seems to be some evidence that actually supports their claim. For example, there was a study that I saw a while ago which looked at racial groups broken by liberal and conservative, and they were asked about their opinion of their own race. And conservative white people think fine about their own race, about white people. Liberal and conservative black people both think fine about black people. Liberal and conservative Hispanic people both think fine about Hispanic people. Liberal and conservative Asian people both think fine about Asian people. Liberal white people were the only group amongst all of them that had a negative racial self-perception. I think that these tendencies are very counterproductive. Like, yeah, it's unironic white guilt. But white guilt should remain the straw man conservatives construct. It should not actually be the way we think about ourselves, because I don't want people to not be racist because they're fucking guilty. I want them to not be racist because they are actualized, because they're sociologically aware, because they're strong people who understand what's right and what's wrong and they do what's right. That's what I want. I don't want them to feel guilt. I don't want guilt to be the motivator. It makes them cloying. It makes them weak. It makes them counterproductive. And it makes them, honestly, if I'm going to be real for a second and maybe assume a couple of points, really fucking annoying to black people. Because having spoken to plenty of POC in my life, the general opinion of the obviously guilty white person who's constantly looking for approval and affirmation from people of color, those type of people tend to be very annoying to POC in my experience or personal opinion. So, yeah. Vosh, coming from the world of corporate training, this is likely a result of somebody pushing for training on a topic, but not allowing enough time for research, understanding, and editing of the material. I don't think that the problem is, like, this came from Robin DiAngelo, right? She wants to sell her bullshit, but nobody understands the subject well enough at a corporate level to challenge her. The top people in corporations are not sociology majors, you know? Like, if Robin DiAngelo comes forward and says, like, hey, racism's a hot topic these days. Don't you want to be, like, woke? You want to be up in front, right? You don't want to be, like, canceled if one of your employees does something racist? I'll give you this, like, PowerPoint. You can use this, okay? And none of the people at the higher up in corporate, they don't know enough about this subject to levy the criticism that I have. It's not because they're stupid. It's just not their... It's just not their... Yeah, not their field of expertise, you know? We need to be better about this. Because I think this isn't helping. That ended up being a pretty fun set. Hey, Shu, thanks. I don't know if Robin DiAngelo is really a grifter. It doesn't really matter whether she believes what she's saying or not. I just think that it has negative consequences. This is like last stream when chat shat on white people for moving into black neighborhoods. There are people in my chat right now who I unironically do believe are kind of racist against white people. Unfortunately, there's a very thin line in between playful joking about white people to satirize the, like, the experiences under white supremacy, which is fine, and actually disliking white people. The problem is that unfortunately, by way of being human beings, black people fall into the exact same cognitive traps that wait, sorry, I'm not talking about black people here. I'm just talking, hold on, wait, I almost fell for the bullshit myself. White people hate white people more than anyone else. Hold on. The people who shit talk white people online are mostly white people. I nearly fell for like the meme myself. Hold on. It's, but you know that meme where it's like, I'm so sorry for being white. Some things can never be forgiven. And it's both white people. You know what I mean? You know what I mean? That's the meme, but it's true. It's true. Look, making little jokes about white people and self-rationalizing it as like, white people are on top, this is no systemic harm, blah, blah. Okay, fine. I make jokes about white people. But people, hey, what happened to 4chan, right? The line about from making irreverent jokes at the expense of a group of people to hating that group of people is not as thick and bold as a lot of people think it is. So there are people, I think, who are unironically anti-white. And to be clear, being anti-white doesn't do the same harm to society as being anti-anything else for reasons that I imagine should be obvious to you guys. There's just not as much of an avenue. There's not as much of an opportunity to, you know, to do that, to inflict that harm. But it's still not good. Still not good, especially since a lot of the anti-white types actually end up being really bad advocates against racism. Just something I've noticed. A lot of the people who are online, whether they're black people who hate white people or white people who hate white people or whatever, they tend to be, they have some really big gaps in their like understanding of racial dynamics that prevent them from being effective advocates against those things, you know? How could they not? Hate begets hate. It's not good. Does this hold up for people who seem to genuinely hate men too? Yeah, there are, this is mostly women. There are women who legitimately just fucking hate men. Yeah, I think that's really shitty. I don't think that's justified. Now, if you're a woman and you're a little wary around men, like at a party because you feel like they have the physical potential to inflict harm on you, I understand that. I understand the practical need for that because there are physiological differences and social differences too that might make you feel more wary, but that's a far cry from hating somebody. Yeah, I do think it's bad that like anti-male feminists mostly ended up being TERFs, but I don't think they have to be a TERF to be bad. Just hating men on its own is bad. Even if they're not a TERF, I still just think hating men is bad, you know? I feel like that shouldn't be a controversial statement that hating men is bad, but, you know. Would you say the same is true of black people being wary of white people? Wary of cops, maybe. I don't think, like, white people, like, at a party, like, just attack black people necessarily. If you look at, like, interracial crime statistics, I'm pretty sure... I don't think it's as justified. If you want to be wary for the mean of your own personal safety, then feel free to. In the South, though, maybe. No, in public there can be tension. Yeah. What about being profiled? Well, that's with like the cops or the state. So you should always be wary of the state. I live in Alabama and it does happen. Okay. I'm just trying to make the claim that women being wary of men for fear of sexual assault is not analogous to black people being wary of white people. If you look at the numbers there, those don't pan out. Now, if you're in a sundown town or if you're dealing with cops, there's obviously more going on there. But I think the day-to-day fear that a lot of women experience with regards to their potential sexual assault is a different type of thing. It's a different beast. Does that make sense? The South in 1940, all white people were scary for sure. Hold on. In 1940, black people can be as wary as they fucking want to white people. Wait. I'm talking today. We talking 1940s, okay? You can think, you can fucking hide in alleyways to scoot around. I don't care. Fucking, you had a lot to deal with back then, okay? No, whatever. I don't think black/POC people fear white people mostly. Yeah, I don't get that impression either. I don't think black people like fear white people. Maybe they fear whiteness. They fear institutional racism, but I don't think black people tend to fear white people. But there are edge cases to that too. I mean, To Kill a Mockingbird, you know, you had that show trial for an innocent black man. And while that doesn't happen as much today, it does still kind of happen to some extent where you know, it's not so much the white person, it's like they have the ability to propagate harm by way of their privilege. I'm sorry the stream keeps acting up. I apologize. I don't know why. What is this? Wait a second. Who found this post from 8 years ago? This is funny. Our class congratulated Tyrone and Denisha for being black teens. I hope that's actually why they did it, by the way. I hope that's the actual reason they did it. This is perfect. Oh, it's a famous post? Okay, okay. Oh, yeah. Damn, they look they look real happy about it, too. Whew. Bosh Afro Sabi was chased away by white people while canvassing? Okay. That is very bad. I'm not saying that's not bad. I maintain that there's a different relationship between men and women when it comes to like fear of assault. I maintain that. I'm not getting into the specifics. I'm a white cis guy. I don't stop. Don't stop. Don't